I
Yeah.
have no idea what we're walking to this one, folks. But Nutanix and Intel launch your business critical apps. This might be kind of like a VMware reaction. Well, what's going on here?
Not necessarily. No. We could have a whole discussion on VMware, but no, this is I just thought this was interesting, and there's really it's not a specific announcement. It's just more of an observation I've had over the last few months. I did a research paper on this that published, right at the end of the year. But it used to be, for those that have been around for a while, and Pat, you've been in this industry for a bit. If you remember the early days of virtualization when it first came online or became mainstream,
I remember that. It was going to destroy the server market, right?
wasn't it?
Remember that?
Yeah, oh
Like
yeah.
volumes were going to go down, and we no longer, my gosh, we used to have a special box for every application, and now we can just run every application on a box and virtualize the app. And it was going to be the death of the x86 server market. I remember it.
We're still waiting. We're still waiting.
I know, like the volumes tripled. So
exactly, yeah. But it's interesting because as it came on and this grave threat to the server market emerged, one of the things that always held true for bare metal was those performance and performant applications that you needed to squeeze every bit of CPU cycle out of were sacred cows, right? You could not throw those in virtualized environments because there was a 10% or so performance hit, and that had material impact on your business, right? And that kind of carried forward considerably. Database was always a no-fly zone, if you will, for virtualization for many years. As virtualization technology kind of matured, and that virtualization tax became reduced on the CPU, it started opening the aperture a little bit more. But then along came HCI, and it had its own set of challenges around capacity, linear scaling, and that same performance tax. And so I was commissioned recently to kind of look at what's been going on. And as I looked at what Nutanix has done with its cloud platform, and Intel obviously with Xeon and its acceleration engines, there really is no sacred cow anymore. They're actually pushing even AI in these HCI environments as being good candidates for control under these control planes. So it was an observation that this is more of for IT folks that are watching, that have this mindset of HCI performed a function, but it kind of was put in a box because of performance limitations, because of scale limitations, because of expansion limitations into the cloud and across clouds. You really need to relook at what you've done with your HCI implementations, and really reconsider what you're using that technology for and what you could use that technology for, because it really has, as you look at these new platforms that are being deployed, and it's not just Nutanix, not just Intel, but that's what I was looking at. As you look at these new platforms, there is a whole lot more capability. It's going to simplify your life, lower your cost of doing business, and by the way, you don't have to worry about keeping any applications outside of that pen anymore. So just really an observation.
Yeah, in fact, you did a market spotlight video outlining that, and you can find this in the show notes.
Yep. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. What I like is when you talk with folks that are kind of, this isn't about, when you talk with some of the folks, the techies that are at these companies, whether it's Intel, AMD, Nutanix, VMware, you start to realize it's not about a specific product or a specific company. It's more about what's going on with the technology. So, I would encourage people to take a look at that, because it really gets into HCI as a solution, not just Nutanix, and what's been going on in the silicon world. Talk about, kind of going back to the beginning, what's been going on in the silicon world to accelerate performance, not just Xeon or not just Gaudi or other pieces of silicon. So that's it.
Hey, guy, I'm going to put you on the spot here, Matt.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Nutanix seems to be making a bunch of noise about, VMware, and it's time to blow the bolts and kind of come over to
Yeah.
them. What's your commentary on that? Kind of what's going on? I'm not asking you to pick winners. It's
Yeah.
just more like first of all, what's going on, and what do enterprises need to think through here?
Yeah, Nutanix is being very opportunistic, as you would expect them to be, right? Any good competitor in a space would do that. And they started beating this drum early with the acquisition of VMware from Broadcom. If you remember, Pat, I was a big proponent of the acquisition early on because I didn't see VMware as a kind of cash cow for Broadcom. I saw it as a strategic investment where they could grow. Um, what Nutanix has been really kind of poking at recently is the new bundled pricing that and the new costs that VMware has put around ESX Plus and its suite, right? So there are a lot of enterprises out there that just buy virtualization from VMware. That's ESX Plus, and VMware is going down this bundled path where they're going to give you everything for a fixed amount per core. And if you are an organization that is just looking at virtualization from VMware, you really need to kind of push back on that. I know there's some give because it's not going to be a cost-effective play for the customer if to get all the stuff they don't use and pay for stuff they don't use, their costs are going to go up. If you are a VMware shop and use it across, use a lot of their solutions from ESX to what they're doing in networking and the kind of cloud connectivity VCF, there's certainly a benefit to it. Everything I've read, and I know you're kind of closer to what VMware has been doing with Broadcom, but everything I've read and I've heard from customers is that for those customers that are just using ESX, VMware is being quite what's the word, friendly, I guess I would say, in licensing, and they're working with customers to find a solution that works best for them. So. But I would, if I were an enterprise IT person, which I'm not anymore, I would look at what my utilization is of VMware across my environment and how this bundled licensing kind of applies to what I'm doing. Because I think you're going to find for a lot of customers, there's a lot of baggage there that a lot of technology that they're not going to use, that they're going to end up paying for if they just accept it at face value.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And by the way, day one of the announcement, here's what I said. Well, actually, I was pretty negative on day one, and then I had a conversation with Broadcom CEO Hock Tan, and then I had a discussion with VMware CEO, and here's where I ended up, because the only place that I really had experience with Broadcom was on the semiconductor side.
Mm-hmm.
And they run that probably it's actually the biggest cash flow business on the entire stock exchange. Like, the cash flow and how they do that is just amazing, and the way that Hock Tan acquires companies. But I had this initial notion for probably a decade that it was maybe playing dirty pool, but what it was, it was more about finding exactly where customers derive value.
Yeah.
Make your fair amount of money off of that, it's value-based pricing, which is like, if I'm enabling you to generate $100 million in cash flow to your business, I'm going to price my product appropriately to take part of that. If I'm not adding value to you, I might not even offer that product anymore, or I might get rid of it, or sell it off. So my second day message was, wow, this could be very interesting. This company is really good at working with their customers on where they're willing to pay. If you're in that zone, and by the way, it's very clear, I'm not going to raise prices on you. This is before the acquisition went down.
Yeah.
I'm gonna double the investment in cross cloud capabilities.
Yeah.
Okay. And yet channel partners, we still, of course, we need you. We can't direct sell. We learned our lesson with McAfee and the mainframe division. So my only caution would be, hey, if you're in an area where VMware isn't making any money, right, there's going to be change.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and that's just being a business person, and that's just being having a two-way dialogue. Broadcom is smart, because they know that people can change VMs. It's not simple, but there are push button tools that will take you to KVM, that will take you to Microsoft, that are out there. So, they're not going to screw that up at all. And hey, cross cloud fabrics, that's my deal. And we're going to talk about that with Isovalent coming up. Makes perfect sense. And that is where the puck is going. So we'll wrap that in, right? Because we want to gain market share like a startup would, and then go from there. But anyways, thanks, Matt, for that extra piece.